All right, welcome folks to your second lesson right here. This is lesson number 2. And like normal, we've got a couple of important vocabulary words that you're going to see and you're going to continue to see throughout this unit and throughout the year. All right. First one is this word, this longer word right here, coefficient. Coefficient, yes. Coefficient right here is any number multiplied by a variable. And what I mean by variable right here is these are your letters. These are your unknowns. Okay? So any number in front of that variable is an exponent. Any number in front of that letter is an exponent. So an example of this would be like 4a to the third. This right here, that is your coefficient. Okay? Another example of this right here with your example, second example right here would be 8x squared. Okay? And again, right here, that 8 in front of that letter is your coefficient. Okay? Sometimes we say the letter or the number underneath that that little subscript, that little superscript 2 right there is your base. I'm not going to be concerned about that. What I am going to be concerned with right here is this guy right here, exponent. Exponent, what does it mean? What are you talking about? I'm talking a little bit about exponents. And an exponent is how many times you multiply something by itself. Okay? So what this x squared, what this 8x squared is really telling you is it's telling you this is 8. And then that 8 is being multiplied by x squared. Okay? But that x squared, what that means is that's 8, and then the x squared is x times x. So all the squared is, all that exponent is it's a counter. It counts the number of times that you multiply something by itself. Okay? So, I don't want you getting carried away with anything like exponent rules and that kind of stuff. If you know what an exponent is, and an exponent basically is telling you how many times something's being multiplied by itself, you don't need rules. You don't need to put any additional little pieces of like information that you could forget into your memory. If you just know the essentials, the basics, you'll be fine. Okay? Bongo. Let's go to this next one right here. We're going to do some multiplying of exponents right here, expressions, excuse me, and we're going to look at this. All right? Now, first and foremost, okay, you see an example, okay, and you see 2 words right here, okay, that are key. All right? First one right here is simplify, right? Now, simplify does not mean to solve. Simplify does not mean to go through and plug something or substitute something into your calculator. What simplify means is to take something and to make it simpler, to break it down and to make it look pretty. Okay? Now, you have an expression, a combination right here of letters and numbers right here. All right? And what you want to do with this, what you need to do with this is you need to simplify it. Okay? So, first and foremost, I don't want you getting carried away with this. You are going to multiply right here. This says multiply. So you're going to multiply the 3 and the 9. Every time you do one of these things right here, if you got just a simple multiplying, just multiply it up. 3 times the 9, well, heck, we know that's 27. And now we have an x squared, and we have an x to the 5th. Now, when you have an x squared and you have an x to the 5th, you need to realize what that actually means. Okay? What that x squared means right here is that you have 2 little x's right here. Bingo, bongo. Then you have 5 more x's right here. Bam, bam, bing, bong, boom. Right? You have 27. Right? And you have 2 x's being multiplied by 5 x's. Now, in order to go through and do this, instead of writing all those x's out right there, we can just write 27x to the 7th power, because there's 2 x's and then there's 5 x's. Now, some of you are going to be like, Mr. Swenson, can't we just add those exponents? Yes, yes, but you got to be careful with the language that you're using right here. I would rather, instead of you using adding exponents right here, I would rather have you use the word combine, because what you're actually doing is you're kind of combining them up. You're combining these 2 x's and you're combining these 5 x's right here, boom, to give you 7 x's. Okay? Now, the next one, you have a -7. Okay? So I'm going to box this. This is my answer. The next one, you have a -7w to the 4th times a 5w to the 6th. Now, we've got a -7 right here, and we've got a +5. So let's just multiply those out. Let's not get crazy. We're just multiplying them. So we got -35. We've got a w to the 4th. We've got a w to the 6th. Now, again, I could write all these little w's out. I could write these little 4 w's right here. Boom. Right? 4 of them, and then another 6 of them. Right? I could write all those out, but I don't necessarily need to write all those. What we're doing right there is when they're right next to each other, right? I'm going to take those guys, I'm going to take those fellas, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to combine them up. Boom, 4 and 6 combine to give you 10. There is -35 w to the 10th power. And you are done. Okay? Now, this next slide right here, we're going to be dividing. Okay? Now, dividing is just a little bit different. Okay? Dividing is slightly different. All right? You got to be thinking about your fractions right here when you're going through and you're doing this. Now, when we divide these expressions right here, what we're going to do is we're going to write it out. And I'm going to show you, first of all, what's happening. This is a 32, and y to the 6th, you know that there's 6 y's right here being multiplied by one another. And the bottom we have 12, and then we have 3 y's right here being multiplied by one another. The first thing that we're going to notice right here is the following. You have 32 over 12. Okay? Now, when you have a fraction, sometimes, first of all, 32 over 12. What this sign right here means is divide. So that's just another word for divide. But 32 over 12. We're going to simplify that fraction. So we're going to ask ourselves, what number goes into both 32 and 12? Okay? And the largest number that I know of that goes into both of those right there is 4. So I'm going to divide both of these right here by 4. And I'm going to simplify that to get 8 over 3. Okay? Now, I'm not doing anything with the y's yet. Okay? So what I've got is I've got 8, and then I've got all these little y's right here. And I've got 3, and then I've got 3 more y's. Okay? Now, what's going to happen when you divide right here is you see, okay, a y over a y, a y over a y, a y over a y. So think about this, okay? What's y divided by y, okay? So forget about that for just a second. Forget about the y over y. What's 4 divided by 4? Well, it's 1. What's 8 divided by 8? Well, it's 1. Well, what's y divided by y? Well, y goes into y one time, cancels, right? It turns into a 1. So this y right here, they in turn create a 1. Okay, they cancel. These cancel and create a 1. These cancel and create a 1. And what you're left with, once you cancel things out, is you're left with 8y to the 3rd all over 3, and you are done. Okay? Now, We're going to go on to the next one. We've got a 9m to the 7th over 6m to the 2nd. Okay? And what you see right here is the following. First and foremost, what is 9 over 6? Okay? Well, 9 over 6 happens to be, okay, a fraction that we can reduce. Well, 3 goes into both of these, and we're looking at 3 over 2. So I'm going to write that out. I'm going to write 3m to the 7th all over 2m to the 2nd. Now, what you're going to notice here is that you're going to have 7 m's up here. Now, we can write this out right now, okay? And that's perfectly fine, but there's going to be a certain number of m's that are going to cancel. And the number of m's that cancel, right, are going to be 2. So those 2 are going to cancel. That's going to leave you with 5 m's on the top over 2, and you're done. Okay? Okay. The last one that we've got, 2c to the 4th. You got an expression. You got parentheses right here. So what you're going to notice now is you got 2c to the 4th to the 3rd power. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this outside power, that outside exponent. And that outside exponent tells you to write whatever is inside the parentheses 3 times. Okay? 3 times, you're going to write it out. Okay? Now, this right here, okay, you got 2c to the 4th, 2c to the 4th, 2c to the 4th. Well, what's 2 times 2 times 2? That's 8. So it's 8c to the 4th, c to the 4th. You still have the c to the 4ths, right? So how many c's do you have? Well, you have 4 right here. You have 4 more right here, and you have 4 more right here. So in total, when you combine those 4 C's with these 4 C's with these 4 C's, we have 12 C's. Bingo, bongo, you're done. Okay? Now, this next one, 7, and then you have v to the 15th to the 0 power. Okay? 0 power? What's going on? What is this, Mr. S? Well, anytime you see anything to the 0 power, okay, anything to the 0 power is going to be 1. Okay? Think about it this way. Anytime you write something to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power, I would just cancel it off right here, right? And you don't need to worry about it. It's just 1. It's just 7 times 1. Anything to the 0 power is just 1. Okay? It's like it's not even there. Okay? Now, negative d to the 2nd to the 4th power. That means you're going to take this negative d to the 2nd, and you're going to write it out. You're going to write it out 4 times. Now, this negative, what number is really out in front of that d right there? Well, the number that's really out in front of that is actually a negative 1. Okay? We don't write it there, but it's negative 1. Okay? So negative 1 times a negative 1 is 1, times a negative 1, which is negative 1, times a negative 1, which is 1. So you may write it as 1. Now, you have 2 d's, 2 more d's, 2 more d's, and 2 more d's. Okay? So that's a total of 8 d's. Now, this is perfectly fine, but this is better. You don't really need that 1 out in front of it. Okay? Now, the last slide right here that I have for you is just got a little practice right here, okay, that I want you to try. Now, you can pause the video right now. You can pause it. I want you to try it, all right? And if you, once you feel like, yeah, I think I got it, right, you can resume play and start her back up, okay? So, take a look at this. First one, negative 5v to the f to the 7th times negative 7f to the 4th. So let's multiply the negative 5 and the negative 7. That's 35. That's f to the 7th. That's f to the 4th. We're looking at 35. We got f to the 7th, f to the 4th. Well, how many f's are there? There's a total of 7 being multiplied right here. We don't necessarily need to write it out, but we could. And 4 more being multiplied, we could write it out if we needed to. So we have 35 f to the 11th power. Done. Okay? Now, the second one, we have 28k to the 12th over 10k to the 6th. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to reduce the 28 over 10. Okay? So what number goes into 28 and what number goes into 10? Well, they're both even, so let's try 2. So 28 divided by 2 is 14, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. It looks like that's the most simplest form for that fraction, 14 over 5. We can leave that as is. Okay, so we have 14k to the 12th, all over 5k to the 6th. Now, there are essentially 12 k's on the top, and there are essentially 6 k's on the bottom. If we wanted to write it out, we could. We could write this out as there's a lot of k's right here. All right, well, you might need to get rid of that here for just a moment. Let's see here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all over 5, and then there's 6 of them, 6 k's. That k cancels, that k cancels, that k cancels, those k's cancel, those k's cancel, and those k's cancel. And what you're left over with is you're left over with 6 total k's on the top. You have your 14, you have your 5 on the bottom, and you're done. Okay? Let's take a look at this last bad boy. You've got 9 x to the 8th to the 2nd power. Now, you see this 2nd power? See this 2nd power right here? This 2nd power right here tells you to write this out right here 2 times. Not the 9. The 9's not being written out 2 times. That squared, that 2 only applies to that what's inside the parentheses right there. So you've got 9, and then you've got x to the 8th, x to the 8th. Okay? Once you have that written down, what you see is you have 8 x's right there being multiplied, 8 x's being multiplied. You have 9x to the 16th, and you are done. Okay? Now, you've sufficiently practiced on these right here, taking some notes on these. What I want you to do is I want you to go in. I have a little assignment for you to practice with and work with on Schoology. Please go through that assignment. Please ask questions on that assignment. I will be available on Google Meet to help and aid in any questions or any dilemmas that you might have on these. Please ask, okay?